Today's topic will be a bit more political, kind of, than previous episodes. We see how many people nowadays like to give praise about giving governments more control over people's personal life. You go on YouTube all the time, and people say, "Well, if only this organization, this company was publicly owned. If only it was, state owned and it wasn't private." And the thing is that most of these people hold these beliefs due to a lack of understanding of actually what it is like to live under an authoritarian state or something socialist or communist. And fortunately, or unfortunately, we do actually have somebody, Dad here, who actually has lived through communism and is willing to share their experiences for today. So just kind of briefly, what could you say the structure behind communism was like, and how did that affect your daily life living in Communist Czechoslovakia?
Let me start first with, I'm going to try to compare. Let me say it this way, okay? We compare first, United States kind of, the ideal, what actually our founding fathers intended, and compare it with the communist, what was the intention. Because there are also some similarities, even though that it was a completely different system at the end. So first of all, the communists, they were all about giving the power to the people through the representatives. And when you think about it, it's very, very similar what actually our founding fathers wanted, right? Mm-hmm. Having, a republic where, the people, the citizens, will elect their representatives and at the state and federal level, and those representatives gonna really, do their job, which is protecting the country, protecting the citizens, and protecting the law. And it sounds very similar with the communists, because kind of wanted to do the same thing too, giving the power to the working man, or in the other words, to the people, right? Mm-hmm. However, at the end, that's actually not what panned out. And I don't think so it was even the intention at the beginning, because I think that it was kind of like you just had to construct, it was the idea. But either through human nature, fallen human nature, because unfortunately we are corruptible, or by intent possibly, it became something which not supposed to be. So the communists, when they came in 1945, kind of to the power following World War II in Czechoslovakia, well, they were, riding on the idea like, hey, the people are suffering because of the capitalists, so meaning the only wealthy people were running the country, and the poor people, which was majority, did not, had no worth. Mm-hmm. So we gotta give the people, their rights, their chance to actually have effect on a country. So give the country to the people. So far, so good, right? But and again, it was just false pretense. In reality, what happened about 3 years later, through revolution and so on, that the communists took the power, and they kept the power. There was no intent to sharing it with the rest of the country. Mm. And the lies, like, well, hey, for example, farmers. Hey, you poor farmers here, and you are suffering, you're working so hard all year long, and at the end you have nothing to show off for. And on the other hand, those big farmers, these big conglomerates, they make huge money. We're going to redistribute all that stuff, all those fields, equipment and so on. We're going to give everybody, all these small farmers, piece of it. That didn't happen at all, because at the end, they just took land from everybody. And just were like, hey, we, the country, meaning we, the communists, we who are really in power, we're going to run all those farms. Same with the businesses. They were promising too, helping the small businesses. At the end, they nationalized everything, and specifically the small businesses, like, with like 1, 2, 3 employees and so on. They told those people, hey, just you shut it down, you are over, go work to the factory. And the big businesses, big ones, when 100 people and so on, 100 employees and so on, they of course nationalized those. So there was nothing private at the end, which is kind of different from the United States, right?
Right.
And with that, with the businesses, they took control over everything, over education, healthcare industry, transportation, media, everything. And it's kind of scary, because that's kind of slowly happening in the United States as well. I mean, when you really think about it, what our founding fathers intended 200 plus years ago for our country, and what it is today, it's dramatically different.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Our founding fathers intended that government, for example, is going to take over education.
Oh yeah, no, definitely didn't.
Completely. Our government's going to be slowly taking over the healthcare industry. That is going to be controlling the media and the speech.
Yeah.
I mean, so on and so on. So you can definitely see the parallels, right? That we kind of heading in the wrong direction, because at the end, that the idea, the construct, like, oh, it's going to be for the people, is just false pretense. It's not truth. And again, in some cases by intent, and possibly in our cases by intent, the people who are pushing for it, they already know what's going on, and they're just lying to the people, or just because of the human nature. I mean, give you an example, the French Revolution. I do not think so that it was by intent that it's going to get corrupted to the point that, as they say, the revolution devours its own children when they start, actually killing even their own people. That was not by intent. It just happened by the fallen human nature. Just people are corruptible. But with the communists, especially, following World War II in Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, and so on, these people knew very well what they're doing at that point. So I can assume that the people who are pushing for the socialism or even communism in our very own country or Western Europe and so on, I believe they know very well what they're doing, because the idea, right, the communism or socialism, is evolving. It's not the same as it was 100 years ago. It just, people behind it, they become smarter, wiser, they're adjusting the idea. But at the end, it's just the whole thing is about controlling the people.
Right.
And that's all. Control the people through, all different, powers the government got in this position, right? Either it's a political power, it's, it's a media, it's a military and police, education, healthcare, economy, I mean, you name it, right? So.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say, so what were some things that you experienced when you were living in Czechoslovakia that you didn't have, and that we here in America, we have, that we kind of take for granted? Is there any?
Well, for example, the freedom to choose your destiny. freedom to decide what you want to do with your life.
Right.
In communism, we didn't have those choices. Like, hey, well, my kids, I would like to my kids, go to the college and then based on what they studied to become the doctors, engineers, teachers, and so on. Well, in communism, they didn't have that choice. There were only so many spots, right, in each, schools of higher education, and the communists ensured that only the people, or only the kids of the parents who are 100% on board with the communism had access to those schools. So if you give an example, like if you got one family which is raising very, very good kids, they have very, very intelligent kids, very smart ones, A's and so on, and who would do very well in any field of higher education, just because they were not supporting the party, they couldn't get their kids there. And usually those kids ended up at best at some vocational school or went straight to the manual work. On the other hand, the kids of the party members, even though their kids were not very intelligent, to say at least, some of them are very, very stupid because, and again, those people were very corrupted, therefore their families were dysfunctional, and at the end, their kids were a mess, just kind of like a current president's son, kind of on the same level. But
Right.
those kids were allowed to go to universities, to attend the colleges, and at the end they became the doctors, professors, engineers. Even though their performance was horrible, but they were just pushed through the system because that's what they wanted. And that was one of the reasons why economically it was unsustainable. Because at the end, the people, running the country and, again, the leading people in healthcare, and economy and so on, were badly educated, unintelligent. They had no interest in do anything good except just for themselves. So how that could work? Not very well, right?
Yeah,
Imagine,
no.
for example, Hunter Biden be, I don't know, be a minister of the economy, or being a doctor, in a hospital, being a surgeon. Like, I would probably run away. So it was bad, and yeah.
Is it kind of like a caste system where you're basically
Yes.
you're selected for some occupation or some kind of job? You don't actually have the choice. And so the thing is that means that if you had the connection to get into a high-powered job, you would get it. But even if you didn't have the knowledge or even the willpower to actually even want to take that job, yet if you did have the willpower, you did have the knowledge, or at least had the brain function to actually get to that knowledge, yet you didn't have the connection, you would no chance. You would just be stuck at whatever occupation you'd have been selected. Is that kind of how it went?
Exactly. That's what it is. And you can see even right now, North Korea are the one who is actually that's using that system, the caste system. So only the privileged kids have access to those schools. And to look how North Korea is looking right now. I mean,
That's depressing.
It's pretty bad over there. So at the end, it just it doesn't work. It's a horrible idea. Unfortunately, that's we are kind of pushing kind of for the same thing. Past 20 years at least, having the quotas for specific students from particular areas, and even though that they are not good, we're just gonna put them there because that's what we need, quota from those people. We aren't as bad as the communists were, who like only the people from certain families can make it to the school, What we are doing is just we have quotas, but we are kind of halfway there. We kind of like, well, only these people can, we need 20% of those and 20% of those and so on. We kind of going the same way with the education, higher education. It's very, very unfortunate because at the end we should be, universities should be attended and, schools of higher education should be attended by the kids who have the interest to be there because they have, really inside something which they want to actually enhance, develop, and actually share it with the rest of the world, rest of the people in the country. Should be, also intelligent enough to actually, perform very well in those schools. But you are in university yourself right now. You know that is not actually the case. It's almost like the badge of honor nowadays, having the graduate or postgraduate degree. Hey, I graduated from Stanford or graduated from Notre Dame. Look at me, right? It's not about, well, hey, I want to do something with it.
Right.
Or I was a really good student and I did best what I could. It's all about like, oh, I got a diploma. Look at me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. It's a horrible way to actually run our educational system. But at the end, universities today, with yourself in colleges, they're taking a lot of money from the government, and a lot of them are non-profits, so they have to pay the taxes, and they go with this, with that system.
Quote unquote non-profit. They make a profit. The presidents are still sitting on a giant wad of cash, but it's just they can use a lot of fancy verbiage to kind of skirt around some of those rules.
So saying that, you ask me how was the daily life. So let me just talk about education so far only, right? The regular folks, they saw it. They were living in that system, and it's very depressing, right? It's depressing when you work as hard as you can, you're making right choices in your life, you're taking care of your family, and at the end, it doesn't make any difference in your life. And especially when you see the people on the other side, right? Members of the party or people who were supporting the party, they doing very well, no matter how lazy they are, how they cheat, and how really indifferent they are to their families, their kids, and so on. How corrupt they are, it doesn't matter. They're doing very, very well. Well, at the end, the people who were just the poor, right? They said like, well, okay, so screw it. Why should I work hard? Why should I even try? I'm just gonna go through work. I'm just gonna sit through it. I just didn't do so job, and then I'm gonna go home. And when I get home, I'm gonna take every opportunity I can to get more stuff, more money for myself. Otherwise, I can go, I don't know, go to some construction place, at evening and steal the stuff, steal the material, or, going to be doing some black market stuff, selling some stuff, from my work. Just everybody was, at the end, was cheating, lying. The whole system was just completely corrupted to the bone with the people. Because, when you leave that system, for 40, 50 years, at the end, everybody gets corrupted. And those who really resisted the corruption, they left the country, even though it was pretty hard and there was risk to their life. They still took that chance. I'm leaving,
I mean, that's how this family got to America, right?
Yeah, well, that is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
So, was there anything else that we Americans take for granted that you didn't have the opportunity to have or experience in Czechoslovakia?
Well, I would say definitely religion. You know how it is in our country, and I'm not the best Christian myself. I'm trying to, but how it is. So, like you talk to the people, ask them about their religious affiliation. Majority of people are going to tell you like, well, I'm a Christian. I was baptized and so on. But I don't go to church anymore. I believe in God. I pray to God at home. Why should I go to the church? Why should I really live my religion? Why should I make these choices in my life, everyday choices based on what God wants me? It's too hard to follow. I just gonna do what I want to do, but I still got faith in God. They take it, the religious freedom for granted, because in communism, that was not the case. Again, at the beginning, the communists didn't say like, "Hey guys, we're gonna prohibit religion in our country," because that wouldn't fly. So, so they were lying, and they were saying, "Yeah, of course, yeah. If people want to go to the church, yeah, we're gonna do everything what you can, to support, your decision to be person of God and your faith and so on." But it took just a few years, couple of years or so, and they start shutting down the churches. They imprisoned the priests and the nuns and anybody who was religious. And once they got those imprisoned, then they start focusing on population. So who presented themselves as Christians, they were also, imprisoned. And being imprisoned at that time was a little bit different than it is today. Prison was not, oh, hey, you're going to watch TV all day long, you're going to have 3 meals per day, hey, you can go to the gym, work out, and, you want to study, we're going to give you some books and you can study, No. In prison, in communism, was like, hey, that's a hard labor. You're going to work, you're going to work all day long. And you're going to have maybe 2 meals per day if you're lucky. And the work you're going to do is the worst work, which nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to do. You're going to work like in mines, uranium mines, and your life expectancy is going to be like 3 years, 4 years, because you're going to die from radiation by,
Right.
by the time. Yes, something like that. So the religious freedom we're taking really for granted nowadays. But all that time, be a Christian, like people really took it seriously. And those who actually stayed faithful to God.
Right.
And many times they had to do it kind of like really,
In secret.
really secret, kind of like in a Roman Empire, in catacombs, hiding in caves and so on. Worshiping God. That was kind of the same way. Like it was really, really secret. It kind of loosened up in later years, especially like back in 80s. But even that time, priests were watching what they were saying. Like it was really, really controlled, because secret police was everywhere. And they hear something which just sounds a little bit nefarious, a little bit not aligned with the communists. Yes, you would go to prison right away. So,
Well,
yeah.
I would love to talk more about
Yeah.
about communism, but I think we we unfortunately have run out a bit of time. So we'll probably revisit this this topic in a future episode. But we will have to cut it a little short for today. So that'll be it for this week. In the next episode, we'll actually talk about honesty in work ethics. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us, as we may answer them in a future episode. We'd appreciate it if you could follow us on all social media. And until next week, thanks for listening, take care, and God bless.
Godspeed.